and their doctoral degree to complete their dissertation and do their presentation. Today, I'm talking about the whole leader, building a leadership toolkit that heals, folds, and helps. I want to unpack the invisible weights that we carry, and I also want to guide us on how we can move from being empty to divine equipping. And so I want to talk about that today. All right. How healthy is your soul? Is the first question I want to ask. God is very concerned about our soul prospering as much as our personal lives, as much as our financial life, as much as everything else. So he says, I wish above all that you prosper as much as your soul prospers. Your gifts and your talents must be used to profit you, to build others, to inspire others, and to grow others. That is the sum total of everyone's purpose. Every single one of us must do the same thing with our purpose, and that is we must serve. In serving, in the context of Christian leadership and career professionals, we have a greater mandate to represent Christ as we understand why our gifts were given to us and why they are so unique, who we are sent to serve, and how we are to serve them. So a lot of times there are persons who are very good at their role, but they are still empty because the purpose is not in it. So in all respects, he's saying you must prosper and be in good health, just as your soul prospers. So have you ever felt like you're serving from an empty cup, while others expect you to lead with fire? And you can put your response in the chat if you like. And if something that I want you to think about, have you ever felt like you are leading from an empty cup while everybody expects you to lead with fire? And they have overlooked your unresolved wounds and the silent leaking that is draining your leadership and your soul. Today, we want to talk about that in a way that persons tend not to talk about it. And I want to talk about it in the context that you cannot serve at full capacity when your soul is on reserve. You cannot serve at full capacity when your soul is on reserve. And if your soul is in reserve, it means that you're tired. You are showing up very whole on the outside, but in the inside, you are leaking. Why is that so? Soul fatigue means that you are very tired even after rest. You are empty even with all of the success that you have. You're achieving, you're getting accolades, you're getting applause, you're getting praise. But when you're by yourself, it's as if none of that matters. Something is not adding up. You are feeling guilty for a crime that you're wondering what you have committed. And you're also not feeling fulfilled. You feel alone and there's so much around you. And so what I want us to understand is that as leaders, we have to lead from overflow, because some of us are leading from duty. We are carrying out our roles and responsibilities very well. We are getting A and we are getting 5 full scores on our descriptions and our assessments as we go through our performance assessment. And at the end of the year, we may get a promotion based on our descriptors and how well we have met those descriptors. And we see them as a check mark for our accomplishment, but we are not significant. And significant means that we impact others and we change their lives. And so many of us are functioning as leaders on success and not significance, meeting the general obligations and the things that are on the paper, but not touching base, not making meaningful connections, not inspiring, not growing, and not impacting people in a memorable way. We are not leaving a legacy. And so we want to look at how we can lead from overflow, which means that we create a life that feels good on the inside and not just one that looks good on the outside. So we become what we call a fearless soul. And sometimes the invisible drainers are not at the forefront because we cover them very well. And I know that grief is one of them because I have been a leader and I have been a great achiever, exceptional in my field. I've gotten accolades, even got runner-up, third runner-up, second runner-up, sorry, as principal of the year. Did very well, had my achievements and my accolades, but there was grief that was making me leak on the inside. I lost a lot of family members at one given time. And that is a grief I didn't have time to feel because sometimes the organization doesn't give you the allowance of time to really grieve. And grief in itself is not prescriptive. People take different times to grieve and they grieve in different ways. And so as a leader, there are many griefs that you carry, not just the loss of family members, the physical loss where we bury them, but there is a loss of relationships that can come as leaders through divorce. There are the loss of relationship that can come through persons changing space and environment, migrating and so on. And there is a loss of relationship that can come from the loneliness of leadership. Leadership can sometimes become very lonely when you have the responsibility to make choices and decisions on behalf of persons who have an agenda or who feels that their needs must be met above everyone else. And so when you're making that collective choice, you may lose people. Sometimes you grieve because you lose the best member of your staff, but you realize that they have to go on. And because they are so good too, they made an impact, they inspire and grew others. Sometimes they take others with them. And so there is also the invisible drain of those words that silenced your dream. So you might find a spouse who feels that you have taken too much and you are ignoring them. You might find that because you're missing important appointments for your children and so on, because of you are consumed with your leadership and getting things right and doing things a certain way, you'll find that there are words that are silencing you because those words force you to make a choice, or they were persons who spoke over you. And in the process of proving them wrong, you are consumed with achieving. And those words are silencing your dream because you are not living your dream nor your purpose. You are just trying to please people. There is also the issue where persons spoke over you and expected that you were to take up certain responsibilities. So everybody in the family is a lawyer, so you should have become a lawyer. And those expectations were never yours to carry. And you have those invisible journeyers because where you are is not where you want to be. There is a longing and urge, a gap, a strong desire to do what you love and what you're good at by choice and not by force. And so there are examples of female leaders who are juggling aging parents, team deadlines, and ministry guilt. And there are some male leaders who are juggling the death of their family members, the sickness or illness of a wife, and they also must show up and must deliver. All right? So when that happens, we need what we call a soul healing, a soul release, and a soul retrieval, because you are performing well publicly, but you are battling silently. You are leaking on the inside. Sometimes you have no one to talk to but yourself and God, because persons will not understand because of the expectations. Persons will not understand because of the deadline. Persons will see you as weak and very selfish when you say, I'm not managing, I am not well, I am not in a good place, I need support. Persons you may find that the fear of judgment, the fear of criticism, and the fear of not being good enough keeps you leading on empty. And then there's the emotional and spiritual fatigue that you often hide under excellence. And so you keep pulling for more because you have become accustomed to the applause and to the affirmations and approval. You now thrive on them. So you have become what I call a success addict. And that addict needs the treatment just as any alcoholic person or any person who is an addict, a drug addict, or so on. And then there is this desire too, where you are hurting emotionally. Persons betray you in your organization, persons who would stand up for you, throw you under the bus, persons who you have gone backward for, have become very ungrateful, and persons who feel that they cannot wait their turn wants your position. And that can create some emotional fatigues. For those who are Christians, you may be praying and you may be fasting, and it is not being fixed. The change is not coming. And so you're spiritually fatigued also, but you continue doing well because it is in you to do well, but you are empty. And then there is that burnout that doesn't begin with doing too much. It begins with doing what is out of alignment. You're doing what was never yours to carry. You see, if you find yourself snapping at your team members, it's not necessarily because you stop loving the work, but because you stop loving yourself in the process. Too much, you don't know who you are. You have lost yourself. You are living to please others. You are meeting everybody else's need and you're not meeting yours. You are checking in on everybody and making sure that they are on their A game. Who is checking in on you? And so you're not checking in on yourself. You're missing your doctor's appointments. You're missing important time, quality time with your family. You are putting your job, your work, your achievement in front of those things that matter, that you are losing and you don't even realize it. Because when you're finished with all of that and the time comes for retirement, or God forbid you should get sick, you found that those persons were getting on without you. And so their life goes on as normal because you were never there. You were physically in their lives. You were doing what you were required to do, but you were never present. And we don't want to get to that place. Monica, 46-year-old department head, is known for her flawless reports. An example I'm giving you, punctual emails and solution-oriented mindset. And this is a real story of someone that is a client. She has given me permission to use it. I have changed the name. So she's the go-to for every crisis, and she never misses a deadline. Can you relate? What's hidden? I made her discover that there was this constant fear of being seen as incompetent or replaceable. The emotional exhaustion that she's never feeling enough, even when she's praised. Or is it that she equated performance with worth? This is what gives you fulfillment and make you feel that you're valuable and appreciated. So you don't feel safe to rest or express your emotional needs. And the fact of the matter is, who is there to listen? Because everybody knows you're strong, you're keeping it together, and you're not complaining, and you're always available. So who would believe that somewhere along the line you're leaking on the inside? Or let's look at another scenario. Your days are manageable, very manageable. There is no stress in your job. Your calendar isn't full, and yet you feel drained, unmotivated, and disconnected. Why is that? You are not overloaded. You are working at your own pace. Yet you're always tired and you feel fatigued, you feel empty, you feel stagnant, and you feel unfulfilled. Why is that? Because you're misaligned and disconnected from your purpose. Burnout can be a purpose starvation. Burnout, it can be purpose starvation and not overwork. It's not a toxic workplace. You are just discontented because your purpose, you're starving your purpose. So when your soul isn't engaged, even simple routines appear very heavy, very burdensome, very unappealing. So you want to ask yourself, and I'm asking you to ask yourself this, as you begin to process your soul healing, your soul release, ask yourself, where are you leading well externally, but leaking internally? We want to look at healing the mind, the body, and the soul. Because when you heal the soul, you're healing the mind and you're healing the body. What do I mean? Your mind, your body, and your spirit must be partners. They must be in sync. If one is out of whack, there is a misalignment, and it creates a situation that's not so comfortable. And persons feel overwhelmed, disconnected, disillusioned, and disengaged. Because purpose doesn't just need passion, it requires preparation. And so here we go with some things that a leader must have in his or her toolkit to keep the soul healed, to keep the soul free, and to keep your soul intact. You want to do what I call a sacred stop. You want to carve out a sacred hour weekly where you disconnect from your leadership role and reconnect with your identity in Christ and not your title. Where you take time to nourish your soul. It might be through meditation, it might be through your songs, it might be through your secret walk with God, it might be through fasting and prayer. Whatever it is, you need that sacred stop. And it must be consistent, and it must be for the sole purpose of connecting with your identity in God. Very, very important. And then there's the number two, which I call soul audits, where you conduct your monthly soul scans. You know, when sometimes you get sick, you go to the doctor, they tell you to use, you must do an ultrasound or an MRI or any of those x-rays or so. You want to do that for yourself, and you want to do it monthly. And as you do that soul scan, I want you to ask yourself three questions. What am I avoiding? What is draining me? And where is God nudging me to realign? The answers to those questions can change your life, your perspective, and your ministry. And it can make you anchor yourself. You must also have a purpose anchor. And a purpose anchor is a statement that you keep visible, that connects you to reality, your life, your purpose, what you're about, your why, the problem you are created to solve, the space that you are now put in by God to occupy and to fulfill that why. You want to keep that statement visible. For me, my statement is I lead to restore hope, steer identity, and build people, not platforms. And I keep that visible everywhere I go with also a mantra. So you want to have a mantra too that follows your purpose anchor. My mantra is that you must be true to duty as a needle to the pole. The greatest one is that you must not be able to be bought or sold. You must be true to yourself so that you cannot be false to any man. That's also my mantra that goes with my purpose anchor. And then you must not ignore wise counsel. Who are wise counsel? They are persons who we call destiny helpers that God puts at on your path, on different legs of the journey to guide you and to remind you and sustain you when you're losing hope, you're losing faith, when your soul is getting tired, when you're leaking on the inside. They call some of them the board of advisors. So you want to build a purpose board of advisors. You want to have your spiritual mentor right there. You want to have your leadership coach. If you're a leader, you want to have your peer leader, those who understand what is happening on the ground. You want to have your intercessor, those who will pray for your soul healing, your soul release, and your soul retrieval, and can pick up when you're out of line and give you sound, solid advice. And those are the persons that you want to have also on your team. So what are the three steps I want to offer you to strive from within? The first is that for your reset, you want to reflect deeply. You want to look at what's draining you and what is fueling you. And then you want to realign. You ask, where am I off course from my God-given calling? And then you want to refuel. You want to rebuild your inner strength through soul care practices. And those soul care practices are that you create a digital boundary where you do not check your notifications first thing in the morning or your to-do list. You check in with God and with yourself. You do not lean on your own understanding. You try to have Him guide you. You ask Him, what do you want me to do today? And not what do I have to do today, so that you can approach what you have to do today with wisdom. And you can begin the journey of inspiring, growing, and impacting because you are now understanding what it means. So you want to set those boundaries, first of all, that digital boundary. You want to also have that boundary where you say no so you can protect other persons who you have made dependent on you because you have always said yes. So they do not become masters of their own destiny and you become a stumbling block in their way as a leader because you keep carrying them. So when you say no, you force them to become masters of their own destiny. You give them an opportunity to test themselves to see what they can produce. And you are patient when they make a mistake or they have not caught on as well as they can. You give them the opportunity to see where they went wrong. And we call that real and true assessment, where persons are able to map into their self-awareness and see their strengths and weaknesses. Guided by you, they can also be supported to make that change and to cross over into self-mastery. You want to ensure that that no builds their social intelligence and their emotional intelligence, because they now become critical thinkers, because they are now forced to, and become problem solvers instead of being hindered because you are micromanaging them. So that no is doing so many things that you don't understand. And I call that the divine no. It rights every wrong that you have placed on persons when you micromanage them, when you pull them together, when you compare them with other people, and when you force them to, because leadership has this concept where you say you are the best leader in the world when you get people to do what you want them to do. No, when you are not the best leader. That is a myth. You are the best leader when persons understand how they share and buy into a vision and dedicate themselves to fulfill their vision through their core values and through their strengths and weaknesses, and are very willing to cooperate with other people, to embrace innovation and change, to adapt and be flexible, and also to share in the joy of the moment. And so the key takeaways for me is that soul fatigue is real and it is often silent. Every high-achieving, purpose-driven leader can lead on empty, fulfilling their role, but not their purpose. They can be emotional, mental, and spiritual depletion, and these show up in subtle ways, snapping at people, missing work, being disengaged, reduced performance. Those are some of those: withdrawal, self-injury, self-harm, forgetfulness, confusion. This feeling of helplessness and hopelessness are those subtle ways that shows up as other things to people who are not paying attention. The next thing that we have learned is that you can't pour from an empty soul, and burnout recovery and purpose realignment require more than your time off. So some of us some say to our workers, we need time off. If they are having purpose starvation, they don't need time off. They need clarity, and they need adjusting, and they need assistance to put them on the path. They need to focus, and it needs to be intentional and purposeful, and it cannot just be done by giving them time off. There's also the grief that some persons are carrying, and they would want to be at work, and they can be at work, but they must be an understanding that they are at work because that's one of their distractions. And these are things that you need to add to the mix, and which include time out and timing, so they can adjust and gradually accept the loss that they are going through relationships, divorce, through the death of a family member, and through even a change. Some persons change their location by virtue of their partners getting another job somewhere else outside of where their comfort zone is. And that adjustment for the male can be hard if he has made that choice to support his wife, or that adjustment can be very hard for the wife who has made the decision, and the children, to support the husband for whatever reason. And those are some of the things we're talking about that can burn people out, that can kill their soul, and that can bind them into spaces that drain them from the inside. We are talking about the fact also that you need a leadership sustainable toolkit, which includes your boundaries, your daily soul nourishment rhythms, your strategic rest, which would be, some people do it on Sunday, some people do it on Sabbath, that silence and that stillness that is a pause for self-reflection and for pivoting, because not every pause is really a rest. It's some pause is a divine stop that says you need to change your course, or you need to do this differently, or you need to focus on only this. And we also say that mentorship, coaching, and accountability is also important. So I say now, if this conversation resonated with you, you can book a Soul Sync strategy session with me, or you can do it with Mr. David Ddouglas, who will give you the resources that you need for you to realign your leadership, your calling, and your soul health for sustainable impact and beyond. And for those who are not ready, if you want to do your purpose alignment audit, so you catch up on yourself to see where your soul needs to be healed, where that release need to be, where that retrieval needs to happen, how you can become whole, and how you can, in fact, hold yourself together, heal yourself, and do all of those things that makes joyful work, that keeps you inspiring, that keeps you growing, that keeps you impacting others, that keeps you changing persons' outcomes and lives, and that helps you and keeps pulling you to make people become masters of their own destiny. That is where we're at, and that is where I'm ending this afternoon. So soul healing, soul release, and soul retrieval is very important. And those tools that I've given you for your in your toolkit, very important. Your sacred stop, want to put that your purpose anchors, your wise counsel, and the personal accountability, where you take charge of yourself and you create your boundaries and so on. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thank you and have a great afternoon is what our speaker and her presentation with this evening. And it is afternoon for her because she is presenting from the USA. And it is afternoon over there now. And I welcome you back to the David Ddouglas Weekly Leadership Series. This is where we gather every Sunday between the hours of 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. CST, 3 p.m. EST, where we share knowledge on leadership. Leadership, very, very important in personal development. Leadership in everything. When leadership fails, everything fails. So tonight we have Dr. Marcia Thomas speaking to us on Leadership Kit, how you can build your leadership kit that can help you and how sustainable that can be. We have few great men here with us. Professor Piquet is connecting with us here from the United Kingdom. But this platform is the David Ddouglas Leadership Platform, and one will be asking, what really do we do? This is a youth empowerment platform. So we are here. Our target is to get to the youth, bring them and prepare them for the 21st century in terms of leadership. Leadership starts with you as a person, how well you develop yourself, how able are you to present yourself, and that is how people can entrust their leadership in you. And so first of all, you have to learn how you conduct yourself in society, community where you live. It begins from the house, and as Doc has presented to us, some leadership from the family unit, how you as the father in the house, you are able, they are patterns by which you can even train yourself and position yourself for leadership position out there. Because how you are able to manage your home will reflect on how you will be able to manage your organization. And that will also reflect on how you will manage your nation or your country when you have the opportunity. So tonight, Doc has given us the point, the nuggets, the take-homes on this. This is the question session, so we will open.
Before you go to your question, I also want to, you made a point that's very important, that you can actually tune into yourself and know where your steps will lead you. And so you want to know what triggers you. You want to pay attention to what triggers you in the holistic framework of where you lead in the different capacities in which you lead. I'm happy you mentioned the home, your community, you're a leader, and you want to see how you trigger others also. Because sometimes you mean very well, but there is something about you that triggers someone else. You want to look at that and you want to see how you can heal and how you can hold on to leadership through inspiring others in that way. So when someone speaks to you and when someone says to you, this is how I take what you're saying and so on. Even though you say to them, that's not necessarily what I meant or so on, you must do it in such a humble way that there is some engagement, some collaboration, and some consensus. It can't be that you have, this is who I am, and you have to accept me. So that's part of how leadership in itself begins to leak, because you can leak on others and you can choose to do it voluntarily.
Thank you very much, Doc, for throwing more light in that area. So if you are connecting with us here tonight, it is the question section. You have been here with us from the beginning to this hour. You have question you want to ask Doc tonight. Also, we are streaming live on our Facebook on the account of David Ddouglas Leadership Forum, also on YouTube at David Ddouglas Leadership Forum. If you missed the section, you've not been able to join us from the beginning, you can follow us on these platforms to get the details, the full video of this presentation. I have question, but then I want to first of all give the opportunity to Prof. PK, Prof. From the Manchester University tonight. I don't know why I'm mixing it, but it's the same United Kingdom. Is here with us. Prof, we want to hear your thoughts on the presentation for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David and Marcia. Thank you once again. This is not the first time you've been with us. You've been with us many times, and I always look forward to listening to you. You've made a point that leadership is the most important ingredient for success in any group function. If any group, whether it's a company, whether it's a nation, whether it's a civil society, whether it's a church, wherever 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 people get together to do anything, if there's going to be success, then the important ingredient necessary is leadership. Without leadership, nothing works. And I think you made that point very clear today and also in the previous times when you presented to us. So, and I said to everybody that, look, if you are modest enough, you can learn something new every day. Every time I've listened to somebody, there is something new that I've picked up. So I'm sure people must have picked up things from you, which will help them improve their own leadership skills. I've picked a few things up. My belt, no, even though I am an expert in the area, I still learn because there's still a lot of learning to do and to have. And I've picked up a few things, and I thank you very much. And I believe that others have also benefited from what you presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I want to pick up a point on a point you made that's very important. Even if 2 or 3 persons are there, leadership, somebody is leading. And even if you're leading yourself, that is also important. You have to be able to lead yourself to really work with persons. And so I look at it, and something came to me when you spoke as it relates to the group and the success of leadership, the success of any group being leadership. It comes to me that if you can't reap from the seeds you have planted, then there is no hope for those who you are actually pouring into. What do you think about that, Mr. PK? If you can't reap from the seeds you have planted, because leadership helps you to plant seeds, and that's why a person's life are transformed or changed. But if, for me, this is my opinion, and what I have observed is that if you can't reap from the seeds you are planting, then there is little hope that your leadership will be successful. Do you agree or disagree, or would you want to
Well, I agree with that, because everything starts with yourself, really, because you cannot teach people what you yourself don't do or don't practice or don't know. If you cannot lead yourself, then it will be very difficult to lead others. So the starting point is your ability to lead yourself. And I always say to managers that I meet, and David knows this very, very well, that in your individual life, the most important thing is to be ready at all times to give up what you are for what you might become. Because if you cannot lead yourself into success in the future, hardly can you actually determine any vision for any group of people and lead them to achieve it. So yes, I totally agree. Self-leadership is a starting point, and then you can actually translate it to others. Skill sets are different, but you need to have all of them to be able to succeed. Yes.
Skill sets are different and they must complement each other for leadership to take root and be influential. The skill sets must complement each other, even if they are different, because
Yes.
that's where creativity and innovation comes in. I love that point very much so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. And thank you, Dr. Marcia. Doc, I have a question for you. You talk about emotional and spiritual fatigue. My question will be 3, but I'll take it one after the other. You also talk about misalignment serving your purpose. But let me take it from here. Emotional and spiritual fatigue. When you, as a leader, find yourself in this place, what do you do?
First of all, I want to say you cannot lead from who you pretend to be, because yourself will catch up on you at the times when you least expect it, and most of the times it comes at a collapse. So you have to understand when your emotions are out of whack. And one of the key ways to understand when your emotions is out of whack is when you begin to snap at people and begin to look outward and play the blame game. So every problem, every situation that is happening to you, it's somebody else's fault. And so you are not able to turn this light, the searchlight in to say, how am I contributing to this? And how can I not, how can I escalate it so that we are working as a team? When you get to that place where you find that you're always projecting out, you need to take, first of all, a timeout. And that timeout can be a 30 minutes gap somewhere private while you're at your workplace that says, I need some time to adjust. That is an immediate step when you are not able to stay home or you're not able to step away on the job, in the workplace at that level. When you discover the persistent themes and the seasons that you are finding yourself in, then you need to take the steps to take a longer pause that you may call a vacation leave or a sabbatical or a timeout. And then begin to look inside yourself. You want to look at the ways in which what triggers you. You want to put that down in a journal. You want to be able to map that honestly and objectively. And you want to look at, if that is what triggers you, what could have caused you now to trigger others? Were you triggering others? What in the ways that you have identified that you are triggering others? And how does it resonate with what triggers you and what it is that is pushing you to react in this way and to interact in this way? When you have those paths, you now need to take the steps now to pull on that meditation that pulls you into those Bible promises, that pulls you into that self-awareness, that pulls you into that desire to change, to adapt, to be flexible, because now you have an action plan as to what are the issues, what is it that must be done strategically to solve this problem, and how can you now communicate that change in yourself to those who have been hurt by the interchange, for those who have hurt you in the interchange, and to those who are affected and impacted by that interplay of emotions and lack of focus and that soul fatigue that turned you away, that made you snap, that made you become macromanaging, that made you become very persistent in drilling down to get compliance instead of collaboration. That change is gradual. And so you now have to take these slow steps, and you have to be patient with yourself and with those who must also change with you, because a leader has to carry his or her team.
Thank you very much.
And there's a point that supports it there. Self-leadership is key. You can't take people to where you haven't been. Adelaide made that point, powerful point, Adelaide, that sums it up, yes.
That will drive me to my second question, because you did mention you cannot give out what you don't have. But then I want to let our followers know This is the question section. If you have a question, you need to raise your hand. We will open you up to go ahead with your question. Alternatively, you can put your question in the chat box. We will read it out. Now, my second question. Purpose and leadership. You did mention you cannot give what you don't have. 7 out of purpose. What is the connection from these 7 out of purpose and leadership? Do we grow into leadership or we are born as leaders? How does these two, because purpose is a different thing on its own, leadership is a different thing on its own. You can be living outside your purpose, but still can be a leader. What is the balance in these two? And how can that position you to deliver or to discharge effectively as a leader? Maybe
I love the question very, very much, because this is something that I've been asked all the time, the connection between purpose and leadership. And I always throw something in the mix that is very important.
Right.
For a Christian leader or career professional, you are not outside of the world, you are a part of the world. And in fact, your leadership must be different, it must be exceptional, it must be key. And that is why we call it purpose-driven leadership. So leaders who understand their purpose are more resilient than leaders who don't. And I agree with you, you can lead and do exceptionally well in your leadership. But that is success, that is surface, that is based on achievements and accolades and applause and so on. But leadership that is purpose-driven carries a greater weight, where you inspire, you motivate, and you grow people. It's more about serving. And so you are building a legacy of significance because you allow persons to become masters of their own destiny, and you test them to see what they can produce. You make them understand who they are and what they're about and how they can become a part of the process. So what you create as something very important is self-leadership, and you give them meaning and direction. And you also have meaning and direction. So you are not overly sensitive when things don't go your way. You understand that there are pause in the way and that there are things that can happen to make you deliver or eliminate why you are a good leader and why you were put in that position. So your roles and your responsibilities of leadership can be integrated with your purpose. And as you do that because you have a clear sense of what your vision is, what your why is. Why am I doing this? It's not about you. It's about why I was sent. It's about who sent me. And so you are now able to guide persons to make decisions and actions that work for them. This is leadership. Leadership at its greatest point is service. Regardless if you are doing it from a purpose base or because you're good at what you do. If you are effective, whether it is a secular or a lack of purpose, you change people and you serve people. And if you are purpose-driven, you change people and you serve people. It is the influence that becomes different. It is the motive that changes the game. So when you guide persons to make decisions and actions as a purpose-driven leader, you make it more lasting and your legacy is embedded. When you guide persons to do what is on your do list, to meet a deadline and to fulfill the standards, so you can be rated as getting people to do what you want them to do and not what they should do, is a different ball game. What am I saying? Leadership has to be integrated into purpose for it to become lasting. Leadership that is just leadership lacks clarity, lacks vision, lacks trust, and lacks authenticity, because people know that you're just doing it because you want a promotion. People know that you're just doing it because you want to get more on your pay, you want to get the bonus. But persons are loyal to you and build on what you have given to them when they know that he's not doing it for the bonus. This is him. This is a true person. He cares about us. He has changed my life in this way. He's transforming my outlook. He's making me want to come to work. He's making me want to work. You develop motivation. You pull resilience from persons when you are purpose driven, and you pull compliance from person when you are just a leader. And sometimes we mix up compliance with loyalty.
Thank you very much. That is a detailed one there. I still have some few questions, but I know
Finding the balance. I didn't deal with looking at, I looked at how you find the balance. How do you find the balance? I keep saying it is having those toolkits, having a purpose anchor that is visible and keep going back to it. Finding the balance is always reflecting. What did I do today? How near did it bring me? How am I feeling based on what I have delivered? It's also ensuring that your actions and your decisions align with your core values, and you don't feel guilty knowing that you did this and you did it because it's out of obligation and duty rather than out of a conviction. Those things help you to balance, and you actually support yourself with wise counselors and mentors.
Thank you very much. Well, so as I did mention, I still have more questions, but we have other people here. Alf is connecting with us from Germany. Alf, we will want to hear your thoughts on the presentation tonight. And Tanik is here with us also from Jamaica. We will want to have your thoughts. Tanik, you have some messages in the chat box. I'll be reading them, but we will want to hear from you personally also. So you can unmute yourself. I've made you a co-host, and let us hear your thought on this. And Alf, if you are hearing me, we will want to hear your thought on the presentation for tonight. Quickly want to pick the messages we have in the chat box here. We have one coming from Tanik. It's a powerful section, Dr. Marcia. Purpose, starvation, impact, how you lead. Purpose, starvation, impact, how you lead. We'll want to get much understanding into that. Is it turning into self is crucial as we learn how to lead. That part of knowing how we trigger others and how others trigger us comes as a result of self-awareness and self-management. So we have from Adelaide, she said, self-leadership is key. You can't take people to where you have not been or to believe. That's what it is. You can't take people to where you have not been. I think one of my questions will be that, because Doc, if you can still hear me, there are others that I will read. But then, yes. So
I'm hearing you. Yes.
Yes. So based on what we have here in the chat box,
I think Sister Tanik has her hand raised.
Oh, who is that?
I think I saw Tanik's hand.
Yeah, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself, because I've made you a co-host, so you don't need. Yeah, you don't need my.
Okay, thank you, David.
All right.
Okay, I didn't realize I was able to unmute myself.
Oh, okay. All right.
Apologies for not having my camera on this evening.
We'd love to see you.
But again, I just want to iterate that this has been a powerful session since I joined. But Dr. Marcia spoke so much on leadership, and David, you asked about purpose and leadership, and Dr. Marcia gave us a fulsome overview of that. And the part where I said purpose, starvation, impacts how you lead, I know Dr. Marcia spoke something on that. And so I wanted to just emphasize that when we are in purpose, whether it is in quote unquote leadership, whether it is leadership in the workplace, leadership in the school, leadership in home, leadership wherever we are, that when we start looking from it from an alignment perspective, meaning that I am asking the Lord, I'm saying, God, whatever you want to do in my life, I'm going to invite you to do it. It may not be the easiest thing, and it is not the easiest thing to do. However, I'm going to submit. And many of us, we don't like the word submit because it seems like weakness. But when we truly submit to the one who we know is the greatest leader in our lives, we can then definitely start aligning what we are called to do in this world. Because as Dr. Marcia says, we are still living in this world. We may be of a different alignment because we trust and believe in God, but we are still a part of this world. And as we are a part of this ecosystem, we need to help to transform the lives of others with our leadership, starting from being self-aware, starting from being that place of self-management, self-regulation, regulating my emotions. How do I feel? Is this real or is this fake? Is this a feeling that will help me to grow further? Or is this something that that is coming from somewhere else? Because as we look back into our lives, we have been, I want to say, there are traumas in our life that keep pushing us, that keeps coming forth, and it will impact how we lead as well. So looking at those things in our lives, we need to think about that, think about this purpose, think about this alignment of leadership, and how do I lead from a place of confidence? How do I lead from a place where my mindset keeps evolving? How do I keep growing? How do I keep depositing, as I shared on this very platform, that our mindset is like a currency. It is a bank. It is something that we deposit into every day, and our leadership is that very thing. And as I shared in the chat, I shared that we can't lead beyond our mindset. Wherever our mindset stops, that's the furthest that we go. So you can't lead beyond the mindset. As long as you keep growing your mindset, you're going to keep growing your leadership and your impact. That's my share, David. Thank you.
Very good point. Very good point. And you said something there that I want to pull. Persons who are purpose-driven leaders and who are doing well and are very aligned with their purpose can get tired. We don't want anybody to miss that. You can get tired and you can want to take a rest and you can feel that you are carrying too much for too long. Because purpose does that to people. Purpose starvation, however, is when your life lacks meaning or purpose, but you are still on the grind 100%. You are there, you're doing everything, you're going beyond the call of duty, you're there for everyone, and you're showing up and you're fitting everybody's needs, but yours are not met. You are collapsing, but you have no one to turn to. You feel this unfulfillment, this disconnect, or you have no direction in your life or work. What you used to love, you no longer love. So you want to make sure that you understand that a lack of motivation or disengagement or this overwhelming feeling of uncertainty or emptiness is what we call purpose starvation. Being tired is something different.
Thank you very much, Doc. Our time is catching up with us, but I still have this question I want to ask. Per what Adelaide put here in the chat box, self-leadership is key. You can take people to where you haven't been. Very well put. Now, does this mean as a leader, you first of all need to know where you're going, where you are, before you can lead the people? Or you just need to have knowledge about it and have some ideas, so to put, techniques that can help you to better position yourself there. That is one. Number two, what are the signs that you have to consider as a leader who is entering into a new environment? This is double dose for you. What are the dangers that you need to avoid? What are the things, the signs that you have to be looking out to when you are entering? You get into that office, you are new in that office, you are the leader in that office. There are people occupying that office before you get there. And so what are the things that you have to be, looking out to, the dangers to avoid, what are the things that you need to actually prepare yourself with?
Now, Marshall, let me take the first one, then maybe you can take the second one.
Yes.
Right. The first one is about leader. In order to be able to be effective, you need to be able to lead yourself. It does not mean that whatever you need to lead a group to achieve is something that you must have achieved it in the first place yourself. No. If you are going to lead people to build a dam, it doesn't mean that you should have built a dam for yourself first. What we are saying is that the ability to determine the end goal, the vision, the ability to determine what is the right thing to do going into the future, that skill, and then gotten it done. Once you have that skill and you've been able to use it yourself, you can determine, David, what is it that David Ddouglas does, or me, David Tenge does in 5 years. If you have that skill to be able to achieve that, then it's easy to translate it into the group context. But if you are like a rudderless boat, you cannot even manage yourself where you're going. You can't determine what is the best thing for you. And even if you can achieve it. If you can't do that, how can you then actually lead a group to build a dam? So we say that the basic ingredients for leadership success should start with you, in the sense that you've got a mindset of being able to actually craft a future vision and deliver. And if you've been able to do it for yourself, or you can do it for yourself, then it's easy to actually translate it to the group to context. That's what we mean. I hope that
I love that point, and I want to say you have pushed me to say, if knowledge is important for any leader, whether you are leading yourself or not. For me, knowledge is important because you needed to make important decisions. You needed to act objectively and strategically. But I find in my limited experience that when you go in on only competence, you go in heartless. You don't have a heart. You push people to just perform, and you don't seek to have a meaningful connection with people. You don't look at treating people the way you would want to be treated if the position was reversed. You lack compassion to a large degree, and so you become a person who is very prescriptive in relation to how you deliver based on your job description, and you tend to be someone that points to what person should be doing and not necessarily how they should be doing it, and you don't create the space for them to do that. And I'm in full agreement with you, Mr. P. I want to look at going into a new organization. If you actually came on Thursday, Tanik and I do a session on Thursday, and we actually looked at that, if you remember, Tanik. And so we say, and Tanik can pipe in at any time, you want to look at the culture and you want to look at the social signs that are there. The informal structure is very important. How do people communicate in that office? How do they get things done? You want to go in there and observe. You don't want, there is this myth that you must go in there and stamp your authority, and you must put yourself down, and you must have defining moments that people know what you're about. You can do that normally. You can actually introduce what it is that is important, the strategies that you want to take place in your vision, in your meetings, in your sessions, and in those sessions you want to observe what are the cultural signs and what are the social signs. As I said, how people actually communicate. Pay attention more to the nonverbal communication, because the verbal is clear, but you want to pay attention to what is not said and how people are communicating with their body language and their eyes. You also want to look at the tone. The next thing you want to do is to look at finding who is the heart of that institution you're going to. The heart is the one that can change persons and drive consensus. And you want to look at the head, the one who has the influence, who people always double check with to say, should we be doing this? Are we going to be doing this? And you want to look at the dynamics. You want to look at the dynamics. What do I mean? The norms and expectations. You want to understand the traditions that have been established that needs to change, and you want to look at the expectations when you just enter that organization. What else can I think of? You want to look at the security signs, because persons who don't trust you or feel insecure, you find that they have safety concerns, and not physical safety, but job safety, emotional safety. Will you respect them? Will they be able to continue the way they used to, or will they have to beef up their game, and so on? You want to also look at what I call health and hygiene. And the health and hygiene is not the physical sanitation of the place, is hope, the team spirit. I call that health and hygiene. That's the team spirit and the team engagement. Are people toxic? Is there malice? Is there a lot of hurt? Is there a lot of trauma? Do you need to actually meet people at a certain level? What are their dynamics? And then you want to look at the personal signs, how people carry themselves, how they show up at work, how they complain, and what they look for. Those are the things that I, out of my experience as a leader for 20 years, would say to persons that they must look for.
You see, Marcia and David, the basic definition of leadership. Go to the fundamental. Leadership is a process by which an individual, referred to as the leader, is able to influence a group of people, referred to as followers or subordinates, in order to work together and achieve some good common objective. That's the basic. Now, the issue that Marcia and all the others have talked about is the bit about influence. How do you, because it doesn't say leadership is a process where somebody coerces people or bullies people into something. Influence. So the question is, how do you actually influence? How do you get the people to buy into that vision, into that idea? And that's where the skill is. So it's about motivating, it's about exciting them, it's about winning their hearts and minds. It's about letting them see the beautiful thing you see, so that they can say, yeah, PK, yeah, I can see, count me in, I'm also in. That is about leadership, getting people to do things because they want to do it. And the question is, how do you get them to feel like, doing it? And that's what leadership is about. So it encompasses motivation and winning hearts and letting them feel good and skilling them and exciting them and so forth and so on. It's all a package. This influence is a package. And good leaders are people who are able to influence others to do wonderful things.
And motivation means different things to different people. We want to remember that. Some motivation is not just recompensing people and rewarding them. Motivation means different things to different people. Some want authority over money. Some want their pay to be beefed up. And some want to be just in charge of certain things. They don't want the authority, but they want the recognition. So motivation means different things to different people. You have to go into your new organization and know what each person wants, what the expectation is. And you do it through active listening, through observation, and through genuinely respecting and appreciating people and their vulnerability, allowing them to be vulnerable and allowing them to do their test runs.
That's right. Yeah, you see, motivation is general. You must be able to motivate. How you actually motivate depends on the individual and so forth and so on. Those are the mechanics of motivation. They are the ways, they are the methods, but it's motivation. And a good leader is the one who says, how am I going to motivate them to do it? What style do I use? Is it money? Is it pat on the back? And so forth. A leader should be able, a leader knows that he must motivate to get them to do it. Then the question is, how do you motivate? Because when I go to Dubai to teach, All right. For ladies, I cannot motivate them by hugging them. You cannot hug a woman in Dubai, in the Muslim world. But I can motivate people in the UK, ladies, by hugging them. So it's the style, but it's all motivation. The question is which style is appropriate at any point in time. Those are mechanics. But leadership is about getting people to do things and that influencing them to buy into the idea and work to achieve it. That influence has many parts, and a good leader is the one who's able to do that influence, however, the techniques he needs to use. But it's not coercing, it's not forcing. Leadership is not about forcing people, coercing people, bullying people. Do you know who I am? I have the power to sack you and threatening them. No, that's no leadership at all. Leadership is actually getting people to do things because they want to do it.
And effective leadership, Mr. P,
is the technique.
If effective leadership takes time. It's not a one-off thing. You have to take time to know who you're working with, to do all the mechanics that you have. And sometimes we have it in our head that you go in and your effectiveness, you carry it with you as a badge. You see, leadership is not static, it's a dynamic enterprise. And so when you go in, you might be leading well in this organization, but when you transition into another, your leadership becomes challenged. You begin to feel that you're an imposter and so on, because all of the techniques and things that you're using before is no longer working with this new set of persons. And so you have to go on this journey and this walk, and you have to take your time. And leaders must be given time to prove themselves and within reason, a reasonable time.
That's why we have leadership styles. That's why we have leadership styles, because the style you use in Jamaica may not work in Ghana. A good leader basically influences people to actually do things. The question is, in Jamaica, how do I influence? In Ghana, how do I influence? In Dubai, how do I influence? That's the mark of a good leader who's able to determine what style will work, what motivation strategy will work. That's a good leader. That's the mark of a good leader. So we actually teach all that. To become a good leader, you need to get all these skills. You need to know the styles. You need to be able to determine when to use what. You need to determine motivation and what style will be appropriate and so forth and so on. That's the mark of a leader. It's all holistic. A good leader knows all of them. And we train people to be good leaders. So they know all these things, the details and the mechanics. Thank you for
yes, very good point. And because effective leaders grow into wholeness, and that's what the point I want to leave, that effective leaders grow into wholeness. And so you come in whole and you gradually become better and better at being whole. So you come in as a person who knows who you are, David, and know what you're about and understand what you're supposed to do with the knowledge, but now putting it all together, you grow into that. You grow into that type of wholeness.
Thank you very much. Time is far gone, but I have seen the hand of Alf. Alf, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, in addition to Prof's point and to Doc's lecture or Doc's presentation, in where I work in the international fields amongst various cultures, different, whether it's German, French, Italian, Spanish, American, English, Scottish, Russian, Japanese, we have to, even within Ghana, we have whatever Gardangwe, the Hausas, Northerners, Inzimas, Ashantis, etc., etc., etc. We have to, when we are leaders, we have to know that there are certain subtle cultural differences that we need to address in our leadership. It's our duty as leaders to know those cultural differences and know how to lead our people the best way that we can, and influence them in such a way that is beneficial to their business, so to speak. I give you a typical example. If I say in English, "Who are you?" we would say, in England, we'd say, oh, I am XYZ. If I came to Ghana and said, who are you? Charlie, it's a whole different world. I mean, really? Who do you think? Who? It's the same words. And we all speak English, but it's translated differently because of the culture. So you have to be sensitive to the culture that you're leading. That is my point, and that is something that Prof has said. That is something that Doc has said, and you have to be, as Prof says, the holistic aspects of these things. You have to know what you're saying and how you're saying it, and to whom you're saying it to, in order to bring the best out of the people that you're leading. So I'll just say thank you on that. And already, as you say, time is fast spent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alf. So this is our brother, Alf, from Germany, speaking to us. He's a Ghanaian anyway. So Dr. Marcia, you want to give your final word, and then we draw the curtains for tonight. Dr. Marcia? Okay. I think Doc is not here with us. So we want to thank everybody who has made time to join us for tonight's session. I believe that this has been a productive session for all of us. We're learning about leadership. It is crucial in our time, very, very important for all of us. We are all leaders, and as I did mention earlier, leadership begins with us. The practical aspect of it is how you build your home and how you build yourself. People will look onto how you brand yourself, how you build yourself before they can accept you into leadership. If you are not doing anything about your leadership, don't be annoyed. You can work in that organization for 1,000 years and nobody will call you into leadership because they are not seeing those skills in you. And in our modern Ghana now, in our modern world, it is very important. If you want to lead people, people must see that sign of leadership in you and to call you into that position. We are here as an organization to add value to that, and our target area is to get our youth and prepare them for the 21st century. All the people here on this platform with us, Professor P.K. Richardson from the Manchester University, part of this organization, working with us and doing everything possible that we can achieve this goal. We know we cannot get everybody to that place, but we can do the little that we can whilst we remain. So make time with us next week. Next week, we are going to Canada, and our speaker is called Daniel Becker. And so Daniel Becker will be speaking to us on the topic, the unshakable leader navigating failure, criticism, and comparison. Navigating failure, criticism, and comparison. It's going to be another wonderful session, and we inviting you to make time to be here with us. Invite your friends to join us. This is free of charge. I keep saying here every day, every week when we meet, if you have to engage us in your private way to do this for you, you're going to pay huge. But we're giving this to you as pro bono. So tap into it, learn something that can equip you. It is important for all of us to enhance ourselves in terms of learning. If you are a leader, it is paramount for you to read, learn every day. Prof. PK keeps saying it over here. He learned every day. He learned every day. Every opportunity, in every environment, it presents itself for us to learn. So leaders never cease learning. We learn every day. So this is one of the platforms that can help you to equip yourself with knowledge. Make time with us next week, and God richly bless you. It is on this note we draw the curtains of tonight. Thank you very much for your time. So officially.